of those, coming just over 20 kilometres from the line. 9.1 kilometres at 6.3%. And that final ascent up Grand Colombier, which is such a famous hill in this part of France, and famous in the Tour de France as well. Grand Colombier, 17.3 kilometres at 7.1% through to the finish line on Sunday afternoon. Today's climbs have been altogether more benign. Sorry, I haven't had any information about exactly who has taken the points on those 4 climbs across the day. They were all Category 4 ascents, so not significant in terms of hoovering up the points, but an opportunity for someone to take that mountains jersey, and I think we can say with some confidence it was one of the 4 breakaway riders. Which one of them? I'm not sure we'll find out when we get to the podium in a little while. At the moment, well, it's a bit of a roller coaster ride, isn't it? A few moments ago we were less than 40 kilometres an hour. Now we're touching 70k an hour. Almost impossible to perceive, isn't it? But this is a pace across the tarmac as we start to see the first representative of the Swiss national squad. I mentioned Stefan Bissegger a little earlier on. He is, of course, a member of the Swiss team pursuit squad on the track. A man who has plans and ambitions to head to the EF Education first squad as a World Tour Pro, and where riders are down. Well, let's see if we can get an image of that. It's far enough back, trying to pick up the information from the radio, and of course the teams on the front trying to stay up front as much as possible and stay out of trouble. Doesn't look like too many riders were interfered with there or inconvenienced. I wonder, are we going to get any images? Let's get a look at this again. Just isn't one rider down.
Yeah, one rider.
Yeah.
Don't know what happened there, but that looked quite nasty, that crash. And you know, when that happens in the peloton, you can just see the speed is up, nerves are up. You know, we're inside the last 6 kilometres now, and you get that kind of arrowheads at the front of the peloton. Just look at it behind; it's all kind of strung out. So it's all about safety now, and that's why Jumbo-Visma and Team Ineos are kind of trying to take control of the front of the peloton, just keep their riders out of trouble. Let's remind you some of the names we're looking for in a little while. The Deceuninck Quick-Step squad have been conspicuous by their absence throughout this race so far, as we pick up the images of that. Direct Energy.
Yeah, one of the Total Direct Energy riders has been. It's great to see him up and about.
Yeah, nobody stopped there at all. Maybe they never saw him, but yeah, that was quite nasty.
At least there were a couple of spectators there to assist. Inside 5 kilometres remaining on stage 1 of Tour de l'Ain 2020. We're heading down to the conclusion in Césaria, and it is a large group of riders. Grupo Compato, as we expected, close to the finish. Team Ineos squad have stayed close to the front within the last sort of 20 kilometres or so. No established sprinter for them. So is this mostly about protecting their GC favourites, Bernal, Froome and Thomas, their Tour de France winners? One or two others that will be looking to stay out of trouble and close to the front of affairs. The Israel Startup Nation squad of Dan Martin, the GC, but watch out for the likes of Ugo Hofstetter, Andre Greipel, or perhaps even Tom van Asbroek for sprint challenges and sprint duties later on. The blonde-haired and relatively diminutive Ugo Hofstetter is, I think, towards the back of their line. We'll see who exactly they're going to set up with in a while. Other riders to conjure with: Luca Mossato, as I've mentioned, from B&B Hotels Vital Concept. Nippo Delco One Provence is certainly a squad to watch out for, because Pierre Barbier took stage of the Tour of Bulgaria just a few short days ago, second in the GP Montserrat earlier on this year, and of course he's the younger brother of Rudy Barbier, who's a pretty swift finisher himself, so he's a man to watch out for at the back end of this. Bissegger, as I mentioned, the Swiss rider, heading to EF Education first whenever the Olympics do happen, and he can complete his duties with the Swiss national squad. He won stage 1 of this race 12 months ago, would like to repeat the alchemy. Defending stage 1 winner, you might say. Attilio Viviani, another name to conjure with. 23-year-old younger brother of Elliot Viviani. Cofidis rider. Is also a pretty useful finisher on his day. So if we see the Cofidis jerseys gravitating towards the front, and inevitably we do, we can imagine that Attilio Viviani has been asked to see what he can do about taking what would be a famous victory for Cofidis, and a very useful one indeed, in addition to the Palmares of Attilio Viviani. Down to the final 3 kilometres, and this one is, and still Ineos have control of the peloton, Brian.
You certainly do, and it's all about safety. But when you look at the race just during the week a few days ago, the Occitanie race, you know, Egan Bernal was up there in the top 10 in all the stages. So, you know, safety comes first, and I'm pretty sure that you know, that's what they're looking after. Geraint Thomas right up there towards the front as well. But just looking behind the kind of white, pale blue of Israel Startup Nation are right towards the front. But I think as we have this drag coming up in the next couple of kilometres, we may see an attack.
Yeah, let's watch out for that. 800 metres of a grippy one, about 7%, is certainly going to test and challenge those riders inside the final kilometre and a half. It's about 2.5 kilometres to go. It starts to get grippy. So we're already in that section now, and it starts to level off with the next couple of 100 metres. So if the attack is going to come, probably would usefully be about now. But everyone's going to be in a sense of oxygen debt. It looks like 1 or 2 riders trying to move up on the outside to try and take advantage of the gradient and the difficulty that's been presented, as we see Lotto Soudal gravitating towards the front. They've got 1 or 2 riders trying to put themselves into prime position. The Team Jumbo-Visma squad still have control at the front, protecting Primož Roglic, Kruijswijk, Tom Dumoulin, George Bennett, all those riders in fine form.
It's actually Primož Roglic, the Slovenian champion, on the front here. He's gone on the attack, and just look at the riders grimacing behind, but look who's on his face, grimacing as well, and that's Egan Bernal. So this is a huge effort here. I think Lotto Soudal has got Army in 3rd place there. Geraint Thomas, Theo Gegenhardt, they're all up there. Nairo Quintana moving up. This is a super effort here from Primož Roglic. A lot of tired legs there, but just kind of trying to go over the top there, CSC. We predicted a sprint. It's going to come down to some sort of sprint, but what an effort there from Primož Roglic.
Oh, amazing stuff from Primož Roglic, and very impressive stuff from Egan Bernal. He must have followed him around the bunch all day, and no way is Primož Roglic going to get away without the Tour de France champion Egan Bernal being aware of it and being all over that one. Theo Gegenhardt as well is clearly got good legs, and he's staying close to his team leader. But this is a sustained surge on the front as they go to the line, and inside the closing moments, it's still drawn out into a very, very long, thin line, and the question is, how many of the sprinters will have been able to get close to the front as they bunch up a little bit into the closing stages? There's a little bit of a wind around into the finishing straight as they go to the right hand side of a roundabout, which will offer an opportunity perhaps for some of those sprinters to recover.
Well, there's a lot of legs burning, a lot of gaps opened, and if you've got the legs, this is the time to go. And I'm not too sure how many sprinters are there. We're inside the last kilometre now. A little bit bunching up, so some of the sprinters will come back to the front. Still narrow, and it looks as if it's UAE at the front now, but just behind, a lot of riders starting to come back.
Into that final hairpin that comes within touching distance of the finish line now. Not much more than about 400 or 500 metres to go as the riders look around, and this is almost a sprint of non-sprinters at the moment. An opportunity perhaps for the Team Jumbo-Visma squad to steal a march. Is it Hessink or perhaps Benevent? Probably Hessink that just ended up on the front there momentarily. Didn't feel like he was going to be able to launch at that moment, and they're all jockeying for position. Nobody wants to take this up. Nobody wants to decide to go first. This is going to be a late opportunity as the Team Jumbo-Visma squad have the honour of leading this one out through to the finish line.
And that's Primož Roglic in 2nd place. So Robert Hessink reading out the Slovenian champion here.
Hessink goes for the line, and he's launching, but here comes Primož Roglic off his wheel and going and good. It's the most remarkable sprint finish you're ever likely to see. Has it been Hodge that's gone up just to nick that one? Deceuninck and Quickstep have certainly got the victory, but it was a remarkable finish of riders. They're saying an average speed at the top speed at the conclusion of 60 kilometres per hour, but it just seemed to go on forever, that one, and I think it might even have been that got up to take that one, surprising everyone. Not the sprint finish that we expected, certainly not undertaken in the way that we imagined. Great lead out by Robert Hessink. Primož Roglic launching at just the right time, but not able to get there to prevent that wonderful finish. And it's well, it's going to declining Quick Step. Beseger also up there is disappointed not to repeat his glorious success of 12 months ago, but glory for the declining Quick Step squad. Fist bumps all around.
I don't think they can quite believe it, but I do think it was Baggioli that took that stage there. But an interesting final, very difficult final, but a very much reduced sprint there, taken by a very surprised Baggioli.